Okay, well, virtue and vice. This happened to me about half my life ago. It happened to someone I knew about half my life ago. I'm going to start with the vignette involving vice. I had gone to Las Vegas about half my life ago with my family, with a friend of the family. This friend of the family had won a $90,000 personal injury award. This was wake-up call money for him. He had never gone to school, like school, like university, etc. This was God or fate or whatever higher power, saying, turn your life around, go to school, make something of yourself. What did he do with it? When he was in Vegas with us, he basically blew it in about 2 or 3 weeks. That's vice. Let me tell you about virtue. That was a bit of an appetizer for the main course, and the virtue component happened to me. Okay, that guy spending $90,000, about twice my age. At the time, I was 15. The virtue component was, the person who taught me about virtue was half my age. He was about 7. But he had the soul of a curmudgeon to some extent, at least given his voice, but also he was very, very wise and imparted an interesting lesson to me. Let me explain. I was in Vegas at the time too, coming in from the 130-degree weather, is typical and characteristic of Vegas. I had the greed of Vegas, that vice, bury its fangs into my jugular, my brain, figuratively speaking. And at the time I was 15 years old, and I made that income, that legendary stipend known as an allowance of only $20. Because it sunk into my soul so much, Vegas' greed, I wanted all of a sudden to have an allowance of $30. And I was going to pitch this idea of the scandalous $30 allowance increase, 50% raise, to my parents who were upstairs in a hotel bedroom. When all of a sudden I catch sight of a video arcade, which is one of my big Achilles heel, kryptonite, what have you. If you ever heard one of my stories before, I have video game motifs sometimes, and this is no exception. Here's what happened. Inside the arcade were many different Street Fighter knockoffs and interesting other games, one of which is called World Heroes 2. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but in any case, just so those who are familiar with it, this helps you visualize if you know the title. But anyway, I was on my way to this video machine when I almost virtually trip over someone who's half my height, half my age looking. I never asked his age, but however, he was 10 times as wise as I was in terms of the virtue of generosity. He was probably Eastern European. He had dark skin. He had like dark brown hair, dark tan skin, dark brown hair. But he had this really guttural voice. And what he did was he approached the machine, threw a couple coins in, and gave me a one-word directive which commanded my attention. He simply pointed to the joystick that was in front of me and went like this. He went, play. I was like, hey. At the time in my life, I had more video games than friends. That's changed by about 10%. But I've learned a lot more about generosity since then. But in any case, I played, because I had more games than friends, I was of a mind to beat my opponents into the ground figuratively, and this kid was no exception, like a total jerk, jackass, what have you. I made it a point to defeat this kid in the battle. I played as the overpowered pirate. He played as the underpowered kickboxer who no one in his right mind would select. But he was only 7. He didn't know what he was doing. I defeated him summarily, after which I had my own ass returned to be the computer opponent in the next round who played as a mechanized Nazi or something like that. But, however, a few instances later, not missing a beat, not unlike the king of pop at the commencement of the Smooth Criminal video, he, the 7-year-old, chucks another couple coins effortlessly, almost completely going through, not touching the plastic of the slots. And again, he had the meanest look on his face. He never once looks me in the eye. And here, glowering menacingly from askance, again, the 7-year-old. And I'm like, all right, don't kick the shit out of me for real, 7-year-old kid, okay? So I play again, and this time it occurs to me, I'm like, you know what? He's a pseudo-host. I'm a pseudo-guest of his. So I learned about generosity. It starts to dawn on me. Well, maybe I should be nice to him because he's giving me this free game. And again, at this point, I have more games than friends in my life. So I guide him on the character select screen to the overpowered football player character, and I play as the little guy with the oversized mask and the alligator arms, which ensures my imminent defeat. And it's true to life, despite some of my best efforts at some points, more or less on the whole, I let him win. At this point, he's winning the game, and he gives me this kind of scowl of satisfaction from the side of his face, like yeah, that's right, big Hodge, but it's a little 7-year-old. The whole point of it is this, though. It's not about the what, it's about the who. It's not about winning games, it's about winning friends. And every time I become greedy, whether it's games or otherwise, I think of what is now my inner child. Not a mini-me version of myself, but rather that vengefully sneering 7-year-old who's inexplicably angry looking. I don't know why. And that 7-year-old, with but a few coins, had purchased a significant portion of my heart that day and taught me a lesson about generosity. Thank you.
Okay, so these